Okay, so we are live now.
Okay, just give me a second. Yeah, back. Straight up. Okay.
All right. It's just 2 minutes to go. Anyway, everyone, if you're joining us already, 2 more minutes to go, so that we would we'll kick off our program. But yet, just before that, let me keep my guests hidden for a while.
Okay, so should I hide my I should,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
that's okay,
I've
that's fine.
done.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. If you're joining us from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you're all welcome. This is the integration. Yes, it's the integration. And just as we get started, I'll just share a bit with about how what brought about the entire idea. So I have always personally, I have always been a Christian growing up, but for the most part, I never really understood how what that meant in terms of my everyday life. I know, of course, I needed to go to church, I needed to read my Bible, but really, how does that translate to my everyday life? How does it impact my living, my work, my education, everything about my life? It just didn't get to add up until some years back. Right. And I knew that's a challenge that a lot of people feel. So it's 6 o'clock on the dot. Yes, everyone, please feel free to send in your comments. Yeah, send in your comment from as you go along. Feel free to ask your questions as you go along. So again, you're welcome to the integration. As I was saying earlier on, I said that I never really understood the connection until a point came in my life in 2017. I will never forget. I stumbled on a message somewhere online that radically transformed my life, and I knew that my faith had more value than just the typical Sunday service, participating in activities, and all of that. And that has transformed my life, my family, my career, virtually everything. And so the essence of the integration is really to let you know that this is real. A lot of other people are living it out in terms of applying their faith to their work and career, and they become successful, right? And the second myth the integration is set to debunk is the fact that if you're a person of faith, you should be laid back, you should just be basic and all of that. God has actually designed us to rule and to reign, and He's provided us with everything that we need for life and godliness. So today, so that I don't keep us for so long, today is the first edition of the integration, and I have my special guest in the house. But just before we get off, I would like to read his profile. So we're talking about not just anybody. The goal at the integration is to bring you top professionals who are doing well in a respective field across different sectors, and getting to hear their story, like real practical stories, and knowing how you can apply that to your life. So get your pen and paper, get your notepads, and please feel free to ask questions as we go along. Okay. So my guest today is Mr. Jide Pratt, popularly known as JP. Yes, so call him JP. JP is anyway, I'll introduce him, but just let me read his profile first. JP is an oil and gas industry executive with over 20 years experience in sales, in marketing, business development, trading, business operations all across Africa. And he's achieved top and bottom line profit by harnessing operational efficiency and leading people through processes, management of resources. He is a graduate of accounting from Ahmadu Bello University, a postgraduate student of financial management in University of Uyo. He's also attended Lagos Business School, Harvard, MIT, Boston. Right, he's worked in very interesting organization. He had worked in, if you check his profile, he had worked with Corn Oil, he had worked with Seplat at some point. He has also worked with Forte Oil as well. So he's someone who is vast in the oil and gas space. All right. And today we'll be hearing his story. I'm sure some of you must have followed him. If you follow him, he's a successful executive, and you may want to know what are the things behind this scene, what sponsors your success. Today we'll be hearing the real life stories, and I want you to sit tight as we get into the conversation for today. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you my guest for the day, Mr. Jide Pratt. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
It's a
Thank
pleasure
you
to be
very
here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very
much. I'm honored
much.
to be here.
Yeah. Let me just be sure that we are up. That we are up. Yes. That we are up. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay. So, Mr. G, we'll start off with, can you tell me about yourself? Like, who are you? Just very briefly, who are you? Who's Jide Pratt? Who's JP? Please tell us who are you, about yourself.
Okay. Chinenye, first I must thank you for talking with me. Um, I've watched your career actively for a period of time. What you do is nothing short of phenomenal. The fact that you carry Christ on your sleeve is an added advantage because you're not telling a story to lie to people. You're showing them what it is, and it opens doors, whether you want to accept it or not. So, well done. As we say in Yoruba, konire, that means you will not get tired. Amen.
Yes.
So, who is Jide Pratt? I start saying about myself that I'm a regular guy who went through life from the prism of having, and I say this without any sense of contradiction, we had the best parents, my sisters and myself, who brought us up in an environment of love, warmth, knowledge seeking, and integrity. That shaped who I became when I entered what I call the black industry. The black
Mm.
industry is what I call oil and gas. There's always been this myth that if you go into oil and gas, you can't come out clean. Well, I tell
Yeah,
people,
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that as well.
I did 22 years in oil and gas. There's virtually no role I didn't do, apart from accounting, which is what I read. But
Mm.
the way you're brought up guides who you are as an individual. So I was very, very lucky again to say that our parents brought us up in an atmosphere of integrity being one of the things apart from love. I read accounting, like you said. After accounting, I was clear that I needed a bit more. And I worked in an insurance company. That's how I started my career. That's what took me to sales. And from
Mm.
there, it was, we'll talk more, but from there, that's how I moved into oil and gas.
Okay.
The rest is history. I'm a man of one wife who I love dearly. And I'm going to keep on doing this as long as God gives me breath. So I would say that's who I am in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for that brief introduction. So let's get into the meat of the conversation, everyone. Remember, this is about our faith and how we integrate it with work, our career, and business, right? So, to start off with, first and foremost, GP, um,
Yeah.
how and when did you give a life to Christ, right? Just tell us a bit of that story, and
Okay.
let us know what's the tell us how it is, how it is before and after. You know how you buy something, I tell you this is rather this is before, and then when you go through a lot of processing, it tells you this is after. So
Yeah.
give us some insight into that.
Okay. So for me, the journey to finding Christ or Christ finding me, as I'd rather say, is that
Mm-hmm.
I started in a secondary school in Kaduna. I was born in the north. But somewhere along the line, I wanted to go to a boarding school. So that was a day school. So when I moved to a school that was a Christian school, Baptist High School in Jos. So
Okay.
my
Oh, you schooled
first,
in Jos.
yes, so I did
I
my
schooled in Jos
Form
as
3
well.
there. Aha. So see, more reasons why we're more connected now.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Form 3, being a Christian school, the way we were taught was centered around Christ. So you had to join discipleship groups. So I was a member of a group called Wilson Group. And we used to go on outreaches, we used to go on camping. But one thing that struck me was that it reinforced who Christ was, who God was, in a Baptist kind of way. So sometime around 1989, we went on an outreach, and that was where Christ connected with me. I won't say I connected with Christ. Christ connected with me, and then I saw the need to give my life to Christ, which I did.
Mhm.
Sadly, I undulated for a period when I went into the university in 91, up until I would say 1997, 98, when I would say that I came back to Lagos after NYSC. And I started attending House on the Rock on Wednesdays. I'd go to, it was Muson Center then, go to
Okay.
Muson Center for midweek service. And growing up, I grew up in the Baptist, Methodist, and Catholic way. I wasn't used to seeing people singing and dancing in
Yeah,
church.
I can relate.
So, yeah, so there seemed to be some calm. But I liked praise and worship when I started going to House on the Rock. But I was still seeking something else. So around 2000, I went to the Fountain of Life Church. Nobody told me to. I went there myself. I kept on saying that if I can see this Pastor Bimbo preach, if there's a connection, then maybe I would be all in. When I went to Fountain of Life Church for the first time in 2000, she wasn't at church. It was Pastor
Mm,
Taiwo that preached. But I just fell in love with that man. He reminded me in a way of my father. And I kept on going to church. Funny enough, the next weekend, Pastor B now came to church. That's where I was now hooked line. That, you know what? This is it for me. So after that, I think I rededicated my life sometime in 2000 or 2001. And it's been a journey with Christ since then.
amazing. When you talked about, you gave your life to Christ and then the related, right? It reminded me of myself. You know how I like to describe it this way: you give your life to Christ, you take it back, you give it, you take it back, until you finally then give it. Finally. I had a lot of that before, so I don't know if anyone is on the, is watching this. It's fine. A lot of people just there's the going in and going in out and
Yeah,
all of that. But what's most important, you get to a point where you make a decision: is Jesus or nothing else, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for sharing that. So next, you've been in the energy sector for many years, and like you rightly said, people just feel once you're in oil and gas, your ways can't be straight and all of that. So I really want to know. I mean, you worked in Sahara, Corn Oil, Forte. I would really like to know, how did you start?
Hmm.
And first, most importantly, really, how do you know you were meant to be in the energy sector? Because that's the question a lot of professionals ask. Am I really supposed to be here? Some people they are doing well in their work, but they still don't have that inner satisfaction. So I really want to know, for you, how did you know you were meant to be in the energy sector? For one, you studied accounting, right? So
Yeah.
wanted to also share with us, how did you get to know you're meant to be, in the energy sector?
Okay. So I'm not so sure I got to know. I never got to know. So
Mm,
the beginning was that I read accounting. I never wanted to read accounting. I wanted to read business administration. So now when I went to ABU, I got my offer of admission for business administration. What happened was that as I started doing registration, someone just comes to the front of the line. How many of you have O level maths and English? And of course, I had O level maths. I had O level maths and English. So I put up my hand. And they just said, move to the right lane. Those of you who don't have O level maths and English, move to the left. Then they now asked us, give us your offer, your admission letters. And of course, I had accounting, business admin. So they now moved me from the business admin line to the accounting line. That's how my
wow.
journey with accounting started. So I now told them, but I don't want to read accounting. I want to read business administration. They said there was no option. The guys that they wanted for for accounting didn't have O-level math. So by a fluxion, I became an accounting student. So I said at the end of 1 year, I'll change. At the end of 1 year, they now said I needed to go back to 100 level business admin. So that's how I read accounting. When I finished, I went to work in an audit firm for a year just to be sure that do I like it? Even though I knew I didn't. At the end of the 1 year, I told my boss, this can't work. It's not something I want to do. So introduced me to someone in insurance. And that one now said, if you don't want to do accounting, we can't put you in finance. What do you want to do? So Chinenye, I told them I wanted to market. He said, what do you mean we want to market? Insurance is very, very difficult to sell. But I
Mm-hmm.
told him if I get an understanding of selling insurance, then I'll be able to sell anything. He said, okay. They gave me a job. So I met another gentleman and I got a job in a company called Refuge Insurance. 6 months I'd gone through the ranks, understood the business, and started bringing in new business. It wasn't because I was the brightest guy. But I just told God that, look, I can't be a flop in this job. So I don't know how you want to do it. It's really your business. But for me, at 6 months, I want to be confirmed. And it was
Mm,
just providence. I kept on meeting people that I knew who were in different sectors. Some of them went to Zaria, and I'm like, who does you guys in? So, I was getting jobs as if it was a walk in the park.
mm,
So
mm.
after 6 months, what now struck me was that another insurance company now called me to come for an interview. I remember my first salary, I can never forget, 99, 2000. I was earning 6,000 naira a month at Refuge Insurance. I
Wow.
can't, 6,000 naira a month. Now, when I moved, ICO now called me and moved my salary to maybe it was 30,000. I can't remember now exactly. But it was just a conversation. Now, what is ironic is that in that conversation, we were two, my friend and myself. My friend and myself, Fola and myself, have known ourselves for almost 35 years. He can get picked after 5 interviews. But okay, let me not digress. So I moved to ICO and I did another 6 or 7 months at ICO. So we went to market a customer who belonged to my friend Fola. In marketing the customer, he said he doesn't need insurance, that there's no value for insurance for him. So I said, God forbid anything happens to you. What's the plan for your children? You don't have any annuities. You don't have any life insurance plans. He said, no. I said, so why? Do you want them to suffer? God forbid you go. It wasn't my conversation to have because I escorted my friend. But what was ironic was that in that conversation, there was a second gentleman who was just sat there. He didn't say anything throughout that conversation. But when we got downstairs, I told Fola that man that didn't say anything, I think we should go and print our CVs. And Fola just said, are you okay? Print your CV for... I said, I have a feeling that man will want to talk to us next week. Chinenye, I don't know how I had that inclination. And you see, by then, like I said, I'd had my on and off with God. So I wasn't so sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember in the bus going home, I just kept on saying, God, you need to show me a sign now. I was telling myself internally, how do I know if I'm meant to print my CV? Guess the bus stop I got down from. This is so, I got down on the bus stop and in front of me, I saw a business center. The bus dropped us in front of a business center. So for me, I just went into the business center, brought out my flash drive and told the guys I wanted to print 2 copies of our CVs. So I printed my copies and I printed Fola's copies. A week after, when we went to go and collect the checks from this gentleman, the second man who was quiet, the first question he asked us was that, have you guys ever thought of working for oil and gas? And we said, no, we haven't. But that I now said, if the opportunity comes, it will be something. And now goes, why do you think so? So he asked me, I said, sir, if I can sell insurance, I can sell petrol. I'm 100% like that. He now says, okay, when next you are coming, bring your CV. And I just said, they're here.
Wow.
He said, sorry?
Being ready on the point.
He said, what do you mean by they're here? I said, they're here. I printed them at the business center. Fola didn't know I printed our CVs. So when we got downstairs, Fola said, I don't understand you. Huh? I said, I kept on telling you that the way that guy didn't say anything, he was just watching the conversation. That gentleman was the one who now gave me my foray into oil and gas. He's of blessed memory now. But
wow, amazing.
He now told me that the way we were talking and that the way we were convincing his friend, you won't believe when we went to collect those checks, he brought checks also for his own family.
Wow.
So we opened an account for him. But that was 2 more weeks to the end because we did 5 interviews or so. And 2000, or was it 2001, I was given the offer. My friend didn't. He left for the UK about the same time. But it meant that providence-wise, our paths were different. We had done 5 interviews. He was meant to go to, because the day I got my offer letter was the day his appeal at the British Embassy came through.
So something interesting about what you said. Yeah, interesting about what you said. In fact, I just want to highlight a few lessons here. And the first is the fact that, number one, is that it wasn't as though insurance was what you wanted to do, but you gave it your best, right? You were doing it with your heart. You were doing it as though it was all that you had. And that's one of the things I tell people, when you're working at a place, it might not necessarily be where you want to be, but that's not the reason why you should be slack or act anyhow. Give it your best at the time. And it was in the process of giving it your best that someone was by the side observing, right? So one of the things, the lesson from here is giving your best at whatever you're doing at any material time. Then the second thing, again, I observed from your story now is the fact that, you followed the nudge in your heart. Because, sometimes, and I'm sure you can relate to this, JP, sometimes we expect God to speak to us in dramatic way and say, JP, go and submit your CV. Exactly. And it doesn't have, it just that singular thought. We need to, for the fact that you are a child of God, you should be able to trust the instincts in your heart. God speaks through nudges. And imagine if you hadn't obeyed, right? Imagine how being ready at the point when you asked exactly for your CV. So, that's really interesting. And thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, go on.
If you give me a second, don't forget that the bus stop that we got down at, Chinenye, they didn't drop us at the bus stop. Why did it happen that they dropped us in front of a business center?
The footsteps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord.
And that's it. The steps of righteous are ordered and Lord. And when they say it is our expected end, so the expected end for God for us is good. But you see, we're mortals, we're flesh and blood. So we will worry, we will.
Mm-hmm.
You can't solve a problem for God that is going to solve. It's not
Mm-hmm.
done, it's not doable. So it's a difficult process, but we must learn to trust that process that is God's because the end is good. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, and that again, whatever I hand find, do it well. So my next
Absolutely.
question, JP, your major role revolve around business development. I know you already talked about how God showed you favor, things were just falling in place. And I like to tell people now you were good at what you do. It wasn't as though you weren't excellent, right? But see, I've seen people that are hardworking, but yet no results.
Yeah.
And that is why if you are a person of faith, you have a leverage. So in addition to the hard work, everybody, yes, this, you're being a Christian or having a person of faith is not an excuse to be laid back or lazy. But you also know that there's something beyond your work that
That's right.
enhances what you do. So I just wanted to give us I know you've given us one instance, but in your current field in the energy space, I want you to share with us one experience where you had a very tasking deal maybe to deliver or something very difficult, and then God just stepped in for you in a very miraculous way that you never even expected, and then you were able to deal with that. Because I know business development is not a small thing to do. Closing deals can be very tasking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so when you look at that, there's a portion of Bible that says time and chance happens to every man. It didn't say some men, it didn't say few men. It
Absolutely.
says it happened. So time and chance. So I've always believed in the principle of time and chance. When I got that job, it was then Unipetrol. So when I
Mm-hmm.
got that job, it was Unipetrol, which was just metamorphosing into become Owando. So I was in head office. And it's very, very interesting that everybody got, I met my wife in Owando, and everybody
Oh.
got field appointments, and they were all making money. And I was like, "Ah, God, so this oil and gas is head office that I'm going to sit." But what God was doing is that He obviously was taking me through a process of understanding how to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was working with executive directors, managers in head office, and PowerPoint presentations, going into a leadership meeting, sitting in, listening. It began to remind me of my dad. My dad used to be in the military, and he would tell me that if you give me a superior argument, then we can go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it meant that you have to have your thought process. It's not a shouting thing. You have to just have your thought process. So when I used to sit with him, he'd come in and his friends would come in, colonels, brigadiers, some major generals. And he would like, sit down, where are you going? Listen, you might have a few opinions. Bottom line, when I started in head office, it meant that God was molding me. So while everybody was on the field, I got to understand how it was to manage. My boss will give me a document, read this document, let's prepare a presentation to Mr. Tinubu. And I'm like, how can? So one chance thing happened was that there was a meeting he went into, and I think we were on the 10th floor, if my memory serves me. So Mr. Lakuna sent for me to bring some document. So when I brought the document, I was explaining it to him because I'm the one who did the jottings and everything. And there was a gentleman, Mr. Madueke. Now goes, and since you already have the paper with you, he was an executive director, Chinenye. Since you already have the paper with you, why not just
Take the
explain it?
presentation.
I said, sir, it was as if the floor should open. But in
Mm-hmm.
hindsight, they said that I spoke well. And I also say that, again, the parents we had, I keep on saying it. I used to speak to people who were generals, and put my position forward. So it wasn't too difficult to put that position forward. Based on that, the decision was made to move me from head office to field. So there was somewhere called Commercial Area 1. So it had all the Nigerian breweries, Cadbury's, the blue chip companies. And then what they now said is that since you're in Lagos, every other person, Aba, Port Harcourt, where they have multiple units, will send in their invoices to you. So I started having reconciliation meetings with CFOs. It exposed me. In that exposure, the first month that I was in sales, I committed a massive blunder. I think I posted into the wrong account.
Wow.
It was a sackable offense. But
Hmm.
how did God turn up? The man who was my line manager, one gentleman from the north, Oga Minjiri, and I said, Oga, there's a problem. Because I owned up immediately and I went to meet him. You know what he asked me? He said, how many people died? I said, sir.
Mm.
He said, how many people died? I said, nobody died. He said, then there's no problem we can't solve. So it was favor. I
Mm.
had
Yeah.
committed a blunder that was a sackable offense in my first major role after I just been moved. So what did I say? It was shame my head that, okay, with all the noise, this is where it ends. But I
Mm.
remember just saying a prayer before I went into this office. And I kept on saying to myself that, God, the heart of kings is in your hand and you will let it.
Absolutely.
And I just said it. I didn't do a fasting and prayer. Chinenye. I just said it and I left. And I knocked it. Then his question was that, how many people died? I said, sir, nobody
Mm.
died. So I said, that's it. So let's go and do it. Go and bring your TAR. In 20, 30 minutes, he showed me how to sort it out. Do a reversal to find finance. Bottom line, I sorted it out. By the time
Amazing.
I had done 5 years, I believe in Rwanda, I was one of the few in our sets that got to branch manager. So you see,
Mm.
God stepped in when he gave me a good role, but he also stepped in when I blundered on that role.
Yeah, and
I
then that brings me, that
Yeah,
brings me
go
to the
ahead.
point that sometimes I used to have that challenge as well. When I like to be the best at what I do, give it my best, and whenever I make a mistake, it hits usually hit me hard. Like, why should you make a mistake? But I
Mm,
learned over time that excellence does not mean the absence of mistakes.
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So no matter how good you are, there will be times where there will be mistakes. It is
Oh yeah,
human. I know what God always steps in, like you rightly said. He just has a way of, He said, even when you walk through the fire, I'll be with you. When you go through the
absolutely,
water, it will not swallow you. So
absolutely,
it doesn't matter what is really going on at any time in your life. Really, it's just about knowing that there is someone who watches over you and who loves you even much more than your mistakes. Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So that
All
was
right.
that scenario, and at least thank God I didn't get sacked from there.
Yeah, God had greater plans. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what I want to take it to, from another perspective now, in terms of managing people. One of the challenges we have in workplace, workplace businesses is dealing with people.
Yeah,
Sometimes you may have good bosses, but there's this one difficult person that just becomes a thorn in the flesh.
yeah.
So could you share with us, in your years of working, you've been able to how you've been able to deal with difficult colleagues or difficult bosses, difficult juniors or colleagues, and how has your the principles of your faith in God guided you in dealing with that, and of course resolving the issues.
So remember, I made a mention of when I was growing up how my father used to say, "If you had a superior argument, let me have it." So it means
Mm-hmm.
that growing up, I'd always been able to find out how to balance opinions. Everybody's point of view is going to be different on a certain subject.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into communication or understanding with someone and you force your position, it is going to be friction. I learned that very, very early in life. So I've had bosses that were very difficult at the top. So I learned patience. I'm not a patient person. But because they were my bosses, excuse me, sorry about that. So, but because they were my bosses, I needed to manage up. So I learned patience. This is not workable. Go out, just find a way to solve it. So I found a way to solve the problem. What also happened is that as we continued with that, we found out that once you take someone's perspective and try and solve a problem from that person's perspective, they are more agreeable with you.
To you. Mm-hmm.
But it gets to a point where you get to the what I always call the Y junction. You have to go left or you have to go right. At that point, it's knowledge that points in the direction to go. So you're able to win over someone who is a top boss by saying that, boss, we've looked at it logically up to this point. If we do this, this is what will happen. If we do this, this is what will happen. So at that stage, you have managed up, but you've also used knowledge with practical examples to win them over. It's much
Mm-hmm.
easier when you're managing down.
Yeah, of course you are the boss at that in that instance.
You are the boss. But the hard part of managing down is that when you put two people together in a team, and those two people are at loggerheads, there's no result that is going to come to you positively because
Absolutely.
there's infighting. So it means
Yeah.
that the spirit of discernment to be able to say, okay, let me put John and Chinenye together
Mm-hmm.
because there's some similarities.
Just stop it there before you go on, JP. I find that very. You know, sometimes when because I'm a team lead in my, or in my, in my office. Sometimes whenever a transaction comes, I find myself asking Holy Spirit, who should I put together on this deal? You know,
Mm,
sometimes it's easy to just okay put and all of those things. Sometimes you need God's guidance to know who and who to merge, right, to
absolutely.
get your work done. So I just wanted to add that that's actually one way you can bring God's
It's a
guidance.
very important point you make because you find out that if you study human beings, you find out that people gravitate towards each other for different reasons. So what I try to do is that I try to look at the positives and the negatives. If you have a workplace situation where two people are gravitating for good, it means that what is going to come out of that relationship for the organization is good. If they're gravitating together for bad and you perceive it, then what you want to do is you want to make sure you separate those two people from working on one project together because the output of the organization is what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found out is that over time, and I think I've been blessed with a career where I've worked in almost every department. I've worked in multiple locations. I've worked in a location where they spoke English but didn't want to speak English when I was around.
Hmm.
So I had some transactions in Mali that took me there when I was in Sahara and Ghana sometimes. And once you enter the room, they switch not to French, but they to their local dialect. The irony is that when God's favor goes ahead of you, goes ahead of you. The person that would
Absolutely.
come back to meet me in the evenings downstairs in the office was one of their staff. And she would say, Oga, this is what they discussed. You didn't hear
Hmm.
this, but so you know how to approach. So I just called one of my colleagues who was from Mali, but was working in another country. I need you in Mali, please. We need to go in for a meeting together. So in that meeting, he sat in that meeting. So everything they said in the local dialect, he understood.
That's wisdom.
Wisdom. So when he understood, as we were about to make the final presentations, I now sat down and said, please do the presentation. So he greeted them in the local dialect.
I'm sure they were shocked.
That was it. They
They
were
were shocked.
shocked. They were embarrassed. And for that singular reason. But you see, it means that, what am I trying to say? When you go into organizations, you meet people, don't be haughty. Don't be arrogant. There's really no reason to. If you find that someone's position is A, don't make it A minus. If you can't add value to that person's position, then leave them be. But I try to go into places where I'm not, and I need to say this, I'm quite assertive, but I try very, very much not to be arrogant.
Yeah.
Because being assertive is one thing, yes, but I'm assertive based on knowledge that I have and understanding that I have on a certain topic. So if I'm saying, guys, I do not think we should go this way, but it doesn't mean that you rub off the wrong way on the people that work in that organization because they're your KPI. Human beings are your KPI, whether you want to accept it or not. And if they
Yeah.
do not thrive, then what it means automatically is that top bottom, the organization doesn't thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And when it comes to managing and managing, in up or managing down, it takes a lot of wisdom from God. I've seen a lot of people, they just probably have a very difficult boss and they tell you tomorrow, I want to resign. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm tired. See, because the truth of the matter is that if we keep running away from challenges, then what stands us out, as Christians? And we must remember, think about Daniel in the Bible.
Mm.
This was a man that faced opposition. He didn't run away from was it was in Babylon,
Oh,
right? He stayed put there. So
yeah.
again, it's not this is not a case of staying in a toxic environment. It's a different case entirely. But I'm just saying
Mm.
that even in difficult situations at work, it's meant to build you. Like you rightly said, JP, you're not a person of patience, but being in working with people has built patience. And that's why I don't like people. It's not really the right perspective to say this is how I am. I'm not a
Mm.
patient person. I'm not a I'm not a I'm not a I'm trying to get the right word now. If I find some people say, for instance, when you talk about being bold, they say, no, I'm a very quiet person, I'm reserved.
Mm.
Your career is at stake, and you're saying I'm reserved. See, in the workplace, one of the things you must get used to is change. Like
Yeah.
if you know this is what is required to move you from point A to point B, you must be willing to adjust. And let me just share a quick example, with that. In my office recently, we're told, okay, it's important for you to interact with people, mix up with people. And then I had a colleague of mine say, I don't really like talking to people. I just want to stay. Is it part of my KPI? I say, see,
Mm.
As long as you are in this organization, you have to adapt. So really, as children of God, Bible says, be gentle as doves, right?
Yes.
But be wise as serpents. Wisdom is extremely important. And that idea of taking someone in, I'm sure they didn't even have a clue that the
They didn't.
person in question understood what they were saying.
They
That's
didn't.
wisdom. So even
Yeah,
in difficult work scenarios, you need to ask God, Lord, what do I need to do to get
absolutely.
me to outsmart those people that want, try to pull me down?
One more
Absolutely.
point I wanted to make, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
please.
When
Yes,
we
please.
when we talk to God and you find out that as your faith grows and strengthens, it's not the length of the conversations with God, it's the frequency of the conversations with God. This is what
Mm. Quality over quantity.
it is, quality over quantity. So I've gotten to a stage in my life where my wife will ask me, "How are you so calm about this thing?" And I'll ask her that, "Sweetie, can we change it?" She says, "Well, no, we can't." I said, "So if we worry from now till tomorrow, but me, I've told God this is what I want." And he's the one who says that. I keep on saying it, to bring you to your expected end, glorious end. So it means that whatever we're going through is just a means to that
To
glorious
an
end.
end.
So his plan is not, his thoughts towards me are good and not evil. So if I worry from now to tomorrow, what does it change? So I just go into one quiet corner and say, Baba God, I don't know how you want to do this. These are the things before me. All I need is clear direction. And you'll find out you'll get it.
Absolutely.
You'll find out there's some times where, okay, yes, you need to fast. But you see, if you have frequent, and again, I must stress this, it's not in the length, it's in the frequency of communication. You must find where you can tap onto God and say, God, I need your help here.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That consistency.
once it gives you the window, gives you the revelation, you tap into it. It's really as simple as that.
Yes. Thank you so much for that's really about hitting on the point. My next question, which is around how you get to understand the leading of God. Now I'm going to ask you this very very specifically, JP. Now I've heard a lot of faith-driven professionals. They tell you, I does God speak to me? I don't know where. In fact, there's this colleague of mine. She'll tell me, I don't know when God is speaking to me. How do I know? How do I know? But I tell them, what do you know to do now? Right.
Mm.
So I want to know your own experience with God and in your career. Can you share with us how I know you've given us instances where God drop things in your heart. How does God speak to you generally about things? And have there been any scenario where it's happened to me? And maybe I'll share mine as well, where God nudged something in your heart, but maybe for one reason or the other, you didn't go with it, and then the consequences and the outcome didn't turn out right. You know,
Mm.
I would like you to share that with us, because again, we've all been there. But the more you grow and learn, you'll be able to understand that, hey, this is how God speaks to me, and I should be able to discern and follow through.
So, and again, it's the spirit of discernment and being perceptive. If you look at it, and again, I'm going to go back to that example. How was it a chance that I was thinking about printing CVs to start a conversation that had not been had? And then the boss that ideally should go to. So you see, you have to be perceptive. The boss that was going to a bus stop now decides, I'm not going to the bus stop, I'm dropping everybody, everybody get down. Then I just look to my right. So business center. If you miss the signs that are clear, it means that you're not being perceptive.
Mm-hmm.
You're not being, you don't
Sensitive.
recognize what his voice is, what his style is, because the style of communication with me and you is different from the style of communication with someone else. Let's be extremely clear. The days where, okay, it's the burning bush, this is the burning bush, they're far gone.
Let me
And
say
I
something
tell
there.
people,
Let me say something. Let me say something, JP.
yeah,
My pastor used to say, if God were to start speaking to everybody through burning bushes, there will be no bush in the world. All the
there'll be
bush will
no
be
bush
gone.
again. There'll be no bush again.
There will
But
be
you
no
see,
bush
God did it
again.
at that time because
Yeah.
he wanted to send a message in that instant. I remember getting posted at a certain time where I wanted to get married. And I told God, if I go to this posting and I don't marry, I'll come and hold you. I was telling God that, funny enough, my name was number one on the list to go to Port Harcourt. And I said, no, I found the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And if she says yes, is this the time I now want to be going to Port Harcourt? Then she will be in Lagos. It can't work now. And I left it. So there's this very difficult boss. The guy does not compromise. It's always no for him. And I went to his office. So when I went into his office, there were two people there. And I clearly had come back after lunch. But Chinenye, the irony was that I thought he was the one who said, come back after lunch. So I said, sir. He said, I didn't say anything now. I freaked out because I had goosebumps. I actually had goosebumps. So I went and I came back after lunch. And after lunch, he was the only one in the office, not that person. Pratt, what is the problem? I said, sir, I wanted to bring my wedding invitation to you. I hadn't printed wedding invitation now. Say you are getting married. Thank God. I said, so I'm just wondering that I hear I might be going to Port Harcourt. You know the question he asked me? Where's your wife? I said, she's in Lagos. I said, then you stay in Lagos. There's a role open in Lagos. A conversation that I was treading, I was scared, I was afraid. I was going into someone's office and I was hearing, come back after lunch. And I was telling the man that, you want me to come back? He said, I didn't say anything. What are you talking about? Please leave my office. And I left. So I came back after lunch. He was the only one. So, Chinenye, I should have brushed it off now that, okay, he didn't say so. Nobody said so. But I was perceptive to the vice that there is no other person here. So it's a sign. And I took it as what it was and came back after lunch. The rest is history. I didn't get to move to Port Harcourt. My career continued in Lagos. I got married. And to his grace, we're 21 years in now. So these are the things that it's not going to be a burning bush scenario. Be perceptive. Be attentive. Put yourself, if you call on him, and God has how he does it. Is yes, no, or maybe. But you will hear. So unless you're not perceptive, unless you're not receptive, they can be burning the answer and dancing the drums and shouting yes, yes, yes in your, and you still won't hear. You just have to be in the moment.
Yeah, and you know, it's one thing to even know what God is leading you to do, and that thing is about willingness to take the action.
Correct.
A lot of people know what to do. We keep procrastinating, keep moving and shifting and all of that. So if you're really going to thrive and make progress in your career, business, the greatest skill you must learn is the ability to know what God will have you do immediately. And just to also add, DP, you know, sometimes the natural human instinct wants to see the end of a thing. Now, as we're having discussion in JIPA, anyway, for those in the energy sector, we have what we call great energy professionals for Africa. We're having in a conversation earlier today, and I was like, the natural instinct wants to know, see the end from the beginning. Like, you want to know how it's going to lead you, but sometimes God doesn't really, you know, put everything up before you immediately. Is step by step. Sometimes until you obey the initial step, you might not see exactly what's on the other side. So again, for everyone, the take home is understand how God leads you, follow the prompt in your heart, all right, and then take the steps. And again, even if things don't go right, see, I've always learned, all like you said, all things work together for good. When I mean all, even your mistakes together, even when you make mistakes, right? And just to also share one point, you know, and the aspect of God's leading, when He leads you, He did it with it. Let me share an example. Remember when I got my recent job, I remember I was working on something, and then while I was working, there was this strong nudge in my heart to go check, research a particular point just to confirm if what I had on my document was correct. But I was like, let me quickly do this, should be correct now. And then I nudged it off. That document got to my boss, and I was lashed. Hey, Chine, what is that? And I knew you put this in my mind. Like, all I could say, Lord, I'm sorry. Like, I knew you told me, but so since that day, I don't dismiss it. Even if it's going to take me extra time, I'll go search it or ask someone to search it, because sometimes it's not. God is always there leading and guiding, but are we sensitive enough? Now, to my next question to you, JP. Now, we live in Lagos, and for those who don't live in Lagos, there's hustle and bustle. Everybody's always busy and all of that, and we know. You said something about consistency in terms of your prayer and the word of God and all of that. So for you, practically, I want you to tell us, how do you build in that consistency in your life, right? And how do you get to maintain that consistent, you know, relationship with God in terms of your prayer and word? Because for me, I see it is the life of my very existence. So I would like to know from how, as a busy professional working different, you know, deals and projects, how do you get to navigate that and maintain that consistency?
So for me, it's time. It's the timing. For a long period, I wake up at a certain time every morning.
Okay.
And maybe 10, 15 years, it's been that. If I need to catch a flight that is a 7 o'clock flight, I don't know how by clock I wake up 1 hour earlier than that time. So the fact that I will leave the house without doing my devotion and prayer is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And that has stayed with me for over 15 years. I don't miss it. If I'm on a plane connecting at that time, it's very, very easy. I have my app Bible. And then I do
On the
my
go.
devotion.
Yeah,
I,
it is on the
I,
go.
I
Pray
can't
on the go.
understand how on the go. It's on the go. It's on the go for me. I can't understand not starting the day by reading a word from God, reading the context of. For me, it's a compass. So sometimes I wake up, sometimes I go to sleep early and I wake up 2 a.m., 3 a.m. and I'm like, which kind of 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? But I just look at it that if I'm awake, I'm awake. I'm not sleeping, Abby. Let me do my devotion. You know, the irony is that when I do that devotion at 3 a.m., sometimes I'm supposed to wake up at 5:30. I end up waking up at 7:15. So by the time I wake up at 7:50, I'm like, yeah, but I've done it at 3 o'clock. How? So take the time that you have, because it's the time that you have. Build something into it.
Structure around it.
Build structure around it. My wife has some prayers she does 5 years. In fact, at a certain time, she's like, you know what? The way you sleep, if I wake up at 5, you're going to wake up. So she will sleep in another room or sleep somewhere. But you find out that once you build a consistency around what you need to do, you will find the time. The things that are important to us, we find time for it. How do we meet meetings? How do we get to meetings? How do we get there on time? One thing that I learned, I don't like being late for anything. And again, my dad was a military man. So when he says, guys, we're going at 8 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, you just see the car driving out of the driveway. Like, sometimes we run out of the house with one shoe. We've forgotten the other shoe. Because if you don't go with this bus, where are you going? So it's, if you do your devotion at 5 o'clock, wake up at 5 o'clock and do it. But if for any reason you wake up earlier than 5 o'clock, that is a chance to do it before that 5 o'clock. I also walk actively, run actively. So when I'm doing that, I just plug in sometimes. I'm like, okay, I want to do it when there's no, I don't want to be talking to anybody. Let me just put on my headphones and let me move. Absolutely. So you find the time for the things that are important to you, Chinenye. That's the easiest.
Yes. Thank you for that, JP. And you know, I used to struggle with it as well in terms of building time. And the truth of the matter is that if you might, like a pastor would say, if whatever you don't have a structure for, you're not really doing, right? You need to build a structure for it. The truth of the matter is that you, just the same way you can't do without breathing.
Yeah.
You can't also do without breathing. See, as a child, it is your lifeline. Sometimes it feels as though anytime, this is what happens to me. Anytime maybe I get too busy, blah, 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 and I'm not able to do, I feel like I'm choking in during the day. You understand? If every little thing gets at you, you understand? Yeah. But every time you spend time praying before going out and all of that, it gives you stamina. You know, the Bible says, be strengthened by the Spirit in your inner man. This is not stamina from eating food. There's an internal stamina that comes. It gives you boldness to do life. Right. So for me, this would, if let me share one of my experience. I'm sure maybe for those of you that follow me, one of the things I had learned when I moved to Lagos, it was very difficult for me to adjust because of the hustle and bustle. So I remember traffic was my in-game then. I used to be very bitter at traffic. So I told most people like, Chinenye, use this traffic. So I pray during traffic, even when I'm driving myself. I pray during traffic. I listen to messages during traffic. That was my way. Other times I come back home. See, it is when you understand that it's a do or die affair, because see, your prayer is your life, and the devil knows it. If he can take it away, he can sift your life. So whatever it will take you. Sometimes I come back, I'm tired, I pace around. That's what it takes me not to go not to sleep at all. So the point is, if we understand how valuable, see, that is the only means that God can commune with you. You understand? That's how he strengthens you. That's how you get to hear. So it is your lifeline, everyone. It's your lifeline. Do not trade it for the hustle and bustle of life. It is not an excuse. It's not an excuse. So thank you so much, JP, for that. So the point here, build a structure around, find out what time works for you. And let me tell you one more secret. I used to go inside the toilet, bathroom. I'm not joking. See, sometimes JP, you're a boss. You can
Yeah.
decide to come around 8 o'clock. For some of us that your time does not belong to you. Your boss can tell you, Chine, be at the office 10 a.m. You will find your way. So my way is whenever I'm in those kind of scenario, maybe Chine, you have to be you have to be in Abuja 7 a.m. next morning. I know I may not be able to meet up my usual time. So what I do
Yeah.
sometimes, I just go to the restroom, 10 minutes, and praying the Holy Ghost and all of that. So build structure. It is your life.
Yeah.
All right. We are
Right.
wrapping up, everyone. We just have a few more minutes to go. So one more question, JP. Okay, maybe two. Then we'll round up, right? Do you believe that your business and your career is a tool for the advancement of God's kingdom? Because really and truly, God's desire for us is not just for us to be saved and stay in. There are a lot of people that needs to know about what we believe in,
Mhm.
right? So my question is, do you believe it's an instrument for advancing God's kingdom? And for you, how do you practically, how do you practically use your business, your career, or opportunity? I mean, everything around your business, career, and all of that. How do you get to use it in practical sense now? How do you get to use it to advance God's kingdom daily? How do you influence people? How do you get to get people to see God's light in and through you?
I think that I'm going to rephrase that. I don't see it as business. I see it as every day you wake up is an opportunity to meet people. So
Mm.
every day you meet people in and outside the context of work is an opportunity to talk to them about Christ. If you look at it as just business alone, then you're going to look at things where people start saying that, okay, did we make a profit this year? If we didn't make a profit, how do we give money to the needy? How do we support a pet project that is the light in Hausa? We'll say mune gishiri, mune fitila. So gishiri is salt,
Mm-hmm.
fitila is light.
At least
So
I
where
know
the
that one.
salt,
I grew up in Kano.
uh-huh. So where the salt of the earth and the light of the world. So it's not about
Mm-hmm.
your business alone. It's the fact that if you wake up and you can draw breath, it's another day that God has given you. So use that way to find. I've been, I don't know how it is, but people talk to me. Chinenye, I still can never understand that thing. People open up to me. And in some of those conversations, it's
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to talk to them about God and tell them that, look, these are not, I'm not guessing these things. These are things that have worked for me. I tell
Mm-hmm.
people a lot of time that the principles of the Bible work for both believers and unbelievers.
Say that again. That's the truth. Like the sowing and reaping principle. Trust me,
Absolutely.
it does not care.
He
It is a
doesn't care if God gives a principle.
mm-hmm.
And that's why he says his words will not return to him void.
And
So when he
JP,
gives,
let me just say something
yeah,
there. That's why it's painful when people who in quote now may not really have a relationship with God are applying this principle and getting results. And you that is in-house,
and
you
are born
understand?
again and now not getting it. So what's the problem? So
Really?
so it means that what you have done is that you are the son of the king, then you can't find food to eat.
Ash,
It's a
insult,
taboo.
insult, insult. It's annoying. It can't be
It's a
now.
taboo.
Why?
It's a taboo. So every
Mhm,
opportunity, that's why I don't use business alone. Because if you use business, you are going to always want to tie it to profit. So it means that I went somewhere one time and they were praying in the office, government establishment. And I asked the lady, what time do you resume normally? This was at 9:45. Said that they're supposed to resume work at 8, but that because they came in late, they had to do their prayers first. I said, what you're doing is wrong. You render
mhm,
unto Caesar what is Caesar's. This organization has a mandate to help so and so number of people a day. You are in healthcare services. There are people sitting there in the reception,
mhm.
bereft of care. But because you came late, you took the time that was their own. So I said, why didn't you guys come in here 1 hour before to come and start before everybody opened? She
And these
now
are the
goes
things
back.
that bring people to abuse the faith, right? Because when you begin to
In
mismanage
that,
things like
sorry
that,
to cut you short, but in that conversation, someone was saying at the reception, is this how Christianity is supposed to be? And I had to
exactly,
have a conversation with that person. I pulled that person aside. Okay, what they have done is wrong. But
exactly,
let's not mistake it. This is not what Christianity is about. They have made
absolutely.
an error of because you can't leave that place with the perception that this is how Christians behave. It's an anomaly. So we had that conversation, we left. I'm still in touch with that woman till tomorrow. This is over 5 years. But it means
Hmm.
that once you have the opportunity, not business alone, let's be clear. On a day-to-day, who do you interact with? Who do you meet? There are always going to be those opportunities. If someone comes to you with a problem, listen to the problem, but at the same time, if you can sneak in the word of God into that, and it's not even just, it's actually sneaking, because you just need an entry point.
Yeah,
God will open the
absolutely.
person's heart. The person becomes a
Mhm.
receptive person to understand and learn, because in that moment they're vulnerable. So you guide them to God, guide them to Christ, and then they have something they can tap onto. It's a fountain, it's a flowing well. They keep on tapping from it continuously. But
Yeah,
again,
yeah, and yeah.
that is it. You sneak in and then establish Christ and you leave. Your work is done.
Yeah, and interesting thing is that you keep sowing. Though it might not, the person might not, make an immediate change, right? But you sow a
Mm,
seed that keeps going up and like that. There's so very, anyway. As we go on in the integration, we get to talk more about how you practicalize it. But there's so many ways you
yeah.
can actually express your faith in our work. So many ways. How do you even use your money, right? Your money is actually a tool. Do you give
Mm,
out to things that pertain to God? I mean, there are so many ways, but we'll get to talk more
mm.
about it, right? Our time is already fast spent. Thank
Oh,
you so
wow.
much, JP. It's been great speaking with you. Right. So one final question before I go, as we round up, to our audience, what will you tell our audience about how valuable their faith is when it comes to thriving in business or career? Like in your final words, what do you think they should leave knowing? And going by how God has helped you, brought you, and made you successful all these years, what would you leave with them in terms of integrating their faith, with their work and career?
I think that one thing I'll say to leave this conversation is this. If I had listened to God earlier, I probably would not have had some blips like I did. Not
Hmm.
because He wouldn't have tested me, because I would have had a clearer understanding in the knowledge of who He was. So I would have approached things differently.
Differently.
That is one thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say, and it's very, very important, that I don't mince word when I tell people that I'm a man of faith. It's not up for conversation. But it has worked for me time and time. There are things I wish I could say I can't say on this portal. But
Please
you
say
see,
it, say it, say it, say it, say it,
no, no.
JP.
Okay, think about the fact that you get married.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the union is clear about the fact that the first birth is coming soon, and then it's ectopic.
Hmm.
It is such a harrowing experience that the woman that you love and you're looking at is near the point of death. At that point, everybody just goes into prayer mode. Nobody needs to tell you anything.
Mm.
Nobody needs to tell you anything. But you see, that affliction we thought was a setback, it came back and became a blessing.
Mm.
Because with one fallopian tube, one, we have a healthy boy that turns 18 this
Glory to
year.
God. Glory
It's
to
not a
God.
fluke. It's not a. When my wife starts praying about things, sometimes me myself I get scared, and I tell her that Alagba, calm down. It's like, no, this will happen. So don't be unequally yoked. As you go to work every day, find positions and opportunities to talk to people about God. I have people on my team that are very, very vocal about Christ. But it doesn't mean when I'm doing their target setting, because I'm a Christian as well, I'll be subjective. It doesn't happen. It means that God holds people accountable. So we must set standards
Mm-hmm.
that God Himself will be proud of. But where we
Yeah.
can help people, let's take them to the light. I think that would be how I'll end that.
Thank you so much, JP. And you know what? See, and when we understand that life will ask us questions sometimes.
Mm.
And the questions that life will ask sometimes, whether in your work, business, or career, and things that money may not be able to answer. Intelligence may not be able to answer.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful hair, nice suit, lovely office will not answer. It takes only faith in God to deal with that issue. So it is really not in our best interest to relegate our faith, to the background. And for some professionals, what I find is that it's only when there's a problem. Oh, there's a problem. You don't go ahead and pray. Like if I need to tell someone, even let's just imagine JP is my friend. I don't talk to him for like 10 years. Only
Mm.
or maybe for a while. Only when I have problem I show up. And I ask
Mm.
him, please, please, please. He helps me, and I go off again. Like even you will feel used.
Yeah.
right? You feel like you've been taken advantage of, and that's not the kind of relationship God wants to build with us. So
Absolutely.
as professionals, everyone on the call, all right, okay, this is not a call, everyone following or streaming on that. The point here is your faith is valuable. It is your asset. It is your advantage in a world that is filled with so much mess and unpredictable challenges. And it's, people does well, if I don't disturb the devil will disturb me. Hey, hey. If you are not interested in the devil is interested in you, like a pastor will say.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
interesting in you. So you can't pretend. Even Jesus did not pretend that devil was just by the side.
Oh yeah.
He
Oh yeah.
knew and he prepared and addressed him as he ought to be.
Absolutely.
So everyone, let's get into our week, into our month, and we'll be doing this every month. So let's get into the week every month, knowing that we have something valuable, something you should be proud about, something you
Yeah.
should be bold about, because it is your greatest asset. I hope you've
Absolutely.
had a great time on this program, and thank you so much, JP. I really, really do
Thank you,
appreciate your
Chinenye.
time.
Thank you very much.
Let's see if I have any question. I'm not
Okay.
sure. We have okay. Build structure. Okay. All right. I think they're just comments. Okay. Someone says
Okay.
I have noticed everyone in the room is in oil and gas. JP, I want to move to oil and gas. Is this something we can talk about? Okay, well, you might need to send a private message to JP or myself. I run a mentorship program at GPA, so
Yes.
we can of course you can come in and we can
Yes.
then have the conversation there. That's Jacob, right? So
Yeah.
thank you everyone. See you
Thank
next month
you.
on the integration. Thank you so much, JP.
Thank you very much, Chinenye. I appreciate this honor. Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye everyone. See you on the next month.
Bye.